Welcome to the ChargePoint podcast, brought to you by Flexecharge, your gateway to the future of EV charging. In each episode, we dive deep into the world of EV infrastructure, offering insights and perspectives from industry leaders, innovators, and the people at the forefront of deploying charging solutions and networks. Join us to explore the exciting developments that are accelerating our world towards sustainable mobility.
Welcome back to the ChargePoint podcast. I'm Christoph, and today marks a new chapter in our journey through the EV ecosystem. For the first time, we're turning the spotlight on petrol retailers. Yes, the very companies once built on fossil fuels, to explore how they're adapting to an electric future. This episode kicks off a new series where we'll be speaking with several major players from the petrol retail world in the coming month. First up, Circle K. Can a legacy fuel retailer become a serious force in EV charging? How do they balance convenience store operations, grid constraints, and fast charging infrastructure? And what makes their approach different from pure-play CPOs or utilities entering the market? My guest, Hallgeir Horne, is part of the e-mobility team shaping Circle K's network strategy across Europe. He'll take us behind the scenes, from grid challenges and battery storage to what happens when your EV doesn't charge as fast as you thought. Plus, he talks also about Circle K's first fully electric charging station with no fuel pumps at all. It's a rich and revealing conversation, and just the beginning of this new focus on how traditional energy retailers are trying to reinvent themselves for a zero-emission world. Let's get into it. All right, so let's get started with the first conversation where we talk with energy providers and their electrification strategies. Welcome to Hallgeir from Circle K. Hi,
Thank you so much. Hello.
Thank you for taking the time to sit in the hot seat. We'll go straight to it, as always, with all my guests. So can you please share with us your origins story that led you to the position where you are today?
Sure. So I've been in different roles, sort of touching upon the e-mobility space in, I guess, it's now 7 years. It all started when I was done with my university studies, where I got my master's in what we in Norway call engineering cybernetics. It's basically a control systems degree where my focus was electrical energy. And I started in the Norwegian, it's a state organ that is close to the regulator, but it's purely the concessional authority now. When I started, they were merged as one. Mm-hmm. Where I worked with the analysis of the energy system as a whole, so not only the electricity system, but including other energy carriers. And one of my main focus areas in that work was to make considerations around how the electrification of the transport sector would impact the energy system. So what energy carriers we would move away from and which we would move over to. So that was not only considering the electric mobility, but also hydrogen, biofuels, etc. But sort of sparked a bit my passion for electric mobility, because seeing how this fundamental change to something as big as our sort of way of dealing with personal transport, and how that then connected us as consumers to the power grid was very, very interesting for me. So once I sort of saw an opening in the e-mobility space, I really took it with NLX. An Italian big energy player that at that point in time had some exploratory activities in most of Europe in the e-mobility space, of trying to make it as a supplier of both hardware and software for e-mobility solutions.
Did you move, or was it in Norway you were based still?
Yeah, it was still based in Norway. So my responsibility was the Nordics, Sweden, Denmark, Norway. We didn't have any activities in Finland, but if we would have, it would be also my scope. That was sort of a very steep learning curve as I was doing technical sales, but also technical support for a sort of light organization with a lot of emerging technologies, both software and hardware, which didn't always work perfectly. So that led me to understand what could go wrong. Also, what are the movable parts in sort of the charging setup, both on the CPMS side, but also within the charger itself. So it was a year filled with a lot of learning and sort of applying everything I'd learned about control systems and also electronics in my studies. So it was very interesting, but the way that was set up, it was maybe not doomed for a lot of success in the Nordics. So at a certain point in time, I saw an opportunity in Circle K, which was and still is a very strong player in the mobility space in the European countries where we operate. And that was an opportunity that sort of mixes my expertise within energy with my passion for electromobility.
Fantastic. So maybe you can tell us a bit more about Circle K in this ecosystem and your role in their EV expansion.
Yeah, sure. So Circle K as a CPO is trying to build a leading position within the EV charging market. And we have a high focus on the customer, and we want to become their preferred on-the-go charging destination. And we want to become the mobility partner of choice within the B2B segment. So Circle K is strong both within the traditional fuels, but also now building a strong position within EV charging, and having both sides of that story is very attractive for the B2B customer. And a bit on sort of my role in that, I work in what we call the network development team in Circle K e-mobility. What we do is trying to create a good concept for our business units, so the different countries within the Circle K organization, to deploy as fast as possible, as consistent as possible, and as good as possible. So we are a team of 4 working with hardware, forecourt, and me that I work with energy management solutions. So we'll probably get a bit back to what lays within that, but I can say that we both work with the software around that, but that's more a compliance solution for us. And then when it really starts to matter is when we add battery storage to really sort of combat this issue of grid congestion that we meet across Europe.
Yeah, exciting. That's energy management, our passion, couldn't be in a better spot here. So let's come back a bit to Circle K's position in the market. So there is some increasing competition, or I would say definitely competition to reckon with, which is coming from what we call more pure play CPOs, Electra, Fastnet, and so on, and energy companies also from utility world, electricity world. So what is Circle K's, would you say, competitive advantage in the charging space?
So I think the key advantage is that we already have a lot of very good locations. So we're located already where the drivers want to stop. We know that from the fueling. And we offer, of course, them more than just charging. You can come into our store, use the toilet facilities, buy whatever you would want. And we see that that's a lot more attractive for an EV customer than for a fuel customer to have this offering. You have a bit more time at your hands when you're waiting for your car to charge than when you're fueling. And a lot of that time could be spent in our stores. I know from a personal experience that it's seems like the charging time is flying when you're spending that time doing something else, even if that's being in a Circle K store or just going to the toilet. Really.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. You're right.
Yeah.
So what can we go back maybe to the origins of Circle K's exploration into EV charging? Can you tell us a bit what motivated Circle K to expand into this space? What was it driven by? Consumer demand, regulations, sustainability, long-term business opportunities?
Yeah, so I can't really say from experience, as that's sort of a decision that was already somewhat made when I entered into the company, but I see that it's a lot about following what the demands from the customers are. I mean, with sort of heavy presence in Scandinavia and especially Norway, you're early exposed to the change from the traditional fuels to electrification. And if we don't sort of follow that movement, then we are not meeting the demands of our customers, and we will only be pleasing a smaller and smaller amount of the customer segment.
Absolutely, yeah. It's okay. The market shift natural, and and your luck has been to be in the early adopter market. So then you didn't shift too late. Yeah, we didn't talk about the history, but I wanted to check because I'm not even sure I know. So when did you deploy the first EV charging in the ground? Do you remember? Is it a date?
So we have been doing charging in a bit different with the different approaches since, if I don't remember incorrectly, it's 2012. Mm-hmm. I don't think that was a Circle K branded charger, but it's becoming 10 years now. So at least our sites have been hosting charging for more than a decade.
Yeah.
So a lot of progress since then, and a lot of lessons learned, which I think has been a key benefit for us as a CPO.
Absolutely. Again, when you can sustain an early start, that really pays back for sure later on. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic.
Yeah, but also important to sort of note that we haven't. I think we have been fairly, not throwing all our cards onto the table at once. We've sort of been progressing into the charging space with caution. So with our own CPO activity, we didn't start immediately rolling out that at full pace. We started with some partner charging, and then slow and steady with some of our own branded chargers. And it's first the last, let's say 3-4 years that we've really put out all hands on deck to roll out a bigger charging network in Norway, then Sweden and Denmark, and now we're exploring the new markets that we acquired from Total Energies, and also some chargers already in Ireland and Estonia.
Okay, so today the 3 Scandinavian countries you said, so where are you present, and Ireland, and was it
Estonia? We have a decent amount of chargers. We have one charger in Poland at the moment, and then we have in Germany and Benelux that we have rebranded a lot of the chargers that was deployed in the Total Energies fuel retailing network that was acquired by Circle K a couple of years ago.
That's right. Big deal, I remember. Okay, great. All right, let's move on to dive into a bit the subject matter of infrastructure and technical challenges. So just to clarify, is Circle K looking at a mix of fast and slow charger, or what's the setup and how do you decide where to place the charger? So 2 questions: speed and location.
So when we deploy chargers in our own network, we're deploying only sort of the highest possible power. So we want to to have a network that can feed even the most demanding customers. Although we're, as I will return to, we're aware that not all vehicles can draw 400 kilowatts from our chargers, but we want to at least accommodate those who can. We do also have some activities within workplace charging, where we're dealing with AC charging, but in our own network, it's ultra-fast DC charging.
All right, very clear, yeah. And where to place a charger, I guess it's within the premises of your stations, right? So have you been rethinking the station, like where is the fuel, where is the EV, how is that being approached?
Yeah, so this is something under continuous development, and I don't think I'm really the right person to answer, but we do have our first new build coming up where we're building just the store and chargers, which will be very interesting, coming later this month with official opening in May. So that will be sort of
great,
sort of a sneak peek into the future of Circle K potentially.
All right,
we make a point out of offering both a good experience for the fuel customer and for the EV customer. So we have to find a good balance between the two in the forecourt. But of course, it's an ongoing process for us making that consideration.
Sense. Okay, so I noted here in May that there will be the first station with only EV charging.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
Exciting. Great.
But we do, however, have some stations in Norway where we have sort of gone outside our own network. So we have explored a bit around what we call offsites. So we have one in the center of Oslo, for instance, which is managed and operated by Circle K, but it's outside of our station network. But that one doesn't have a store. So we have explored a bit around it, but at the moment, the focus is our own network.
Okay. Yes. Well, I haven't heard about this one. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, it's an interesting experiment. Yeah, definitely. So let's dive into deeper. So what role does load management play in your charging network, right? And we talked about utilization factor.
Yeah. So for sort of building a charging network without over-investing in the power grid, I think load management and energy management is key. It's more a license to operate than anything else. Because if we were to consistently get the same amount of power from the grid as the theoretical output of all of the chargers put together, especially when we're deploying these sort of all-in-one chargers as Alpitronic, the hypercharger is an example of, then we would heavily overinvest in the power grid. And that's not only a question of money, but it's also a question of feasibility of obtaining that power at all. But by the most regulations across the European markets, you would have to do it like that if you didn't have some sort of active load management of the ongoing charging sessions. So it's really a way for us to deploy the network that we see that our customers require without doing an infeasibly high investment into the power grid at each of the sites. So typically we can deploy up to even double the amount of theoretical charging power on a site. So let's take the example of having 8 hyperchargers with a capability of doing 400 kilowatts each. Then you would have 3.2 megawatts and even more to account for the losses in the charger. But you don't expect that to be the peak charging power on the site, really. So what you expect is more in line of maybe 1 megawatt or 1.5. So having then just 1.5 megawatt from the grid in that hypothetical scenario with load management is a much more effective installation and more in line with the real traffic that we're expecting on the site. And it's then allowing us to build this amount of chargers that the customer require on the site without having to overinvest in the grid and wait for years for that grid capacity to be available.
Very clear. I couldn't have said it better as load management experts here. Yeah, really well framed. You mentioned when we were preparing the interview that about some negative comments that came sometimes from drivers because they stop being, as you were saying, spontaneously and they're not navigating to your charge point.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a bit on this little challenge?
Yeah, that's right. So I think what I just said, that we deploy load balancing on our chargers, has sort of been picked up by both customers and also people in the industry as the CPOs under deploying grid power and then sort of letting the customer pay for this by reducing the charging power when the station is full. We really, really try our best to avoid that. But we still get a lot of this we have a lot of this narrative where people say, yeah, the station was full, so of course the charging power was reduced because of the load balancing that they expect to be present on the site. But really, we do our best to ensure that the power is sufficient. And as you said, we get a lot of these complaints about our charging power, and we also take them seriously. I mean, the customer is always right, and they're probably also getting less power than they did expect. But in, I would say, over 90% of the cases, we see that the real cause is that the car doesn't ask more from the charger. And I would sort of urge the OEMs and the sales reps for the ones selling the cars to our customers to be more honest about what they should expect, and also teach them a bit on how to optimize the car and prepare it for charging, because you really need to come in with a perfectly tempered battery to our station to get the charging power that you expect. And a lot of OEMs have implemented the preconditioning feature through the navigation system. So people, if they navigate to the charger, they will usually arrive with the optimal temperature in the battery. But us, as a sort of roadside retailer with a strong presence along the highway, we're often a convenient stop for people that they didn't necessarily plan. And with that comes also cold batteries. And people then tend to be disappointed of the charging power that they get in our stations.
Well, so a little tip for those listening. So how long, I wouldn't even know myself, how long in advance would it help to just temper the car so I could just navigate, what is it, the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes? What would be?
Yeah, I would you should give it at least 10 minutes. 5 is a bit little. And I think there's also this assumption that by driving far, your battery will already be sort of conditioned for fast charging. But it's not really true that the temperature for driving and the temperature for charging is the same. So even if you've been driving for 110 kilometers an hour, in a couple of hours, you still can't expect to have the right temperature in the battery unless it's preconditioned for charging.
So 10 minutes,
15 to 20 minutes before. It's
even better,
really.
So again, still, I think it's most people in EV have a behavior of planning a bit. So even though you are at convenience or you are, of course, on the roadside, still a little reflex for people out there. If you want to get faster out, remember to think a bit ahead. So that's
but I think also it's a bit unrealistic to put that burden on the customers, right? It's really something that the OEMs should get better at, the thermal management of the batteries, because also from our side as the CPO, it's really not good for us, a customer that charges slow when there is a lot of traffic to sites, because we need high throughput. So slow charging is our enemy as much as our customer's enemy. So And that's also why we really do our best to deploy enough power to each of the sites. And as stated before, 90% of the cases, there is sort of the vehicle limiting the charging session, but of course it does occur. Sometimes we are lucky to get feedback from our customers that helps us uncover an issue with the charger. And we do also have temporary cases where we have a sort of aggressive limitation on the charging power on the site. In Sweden, we have this sometimes waiting for additional capacity from the power grid. So to come quickly to market with the charging offer, sometimes we deploy on a temporary connection. So then in that limited time frame, we might limit the peak power in high traffic periods, but
Makes
that's
sense.
really odd cases.
But that's a good transition to talking about another super key topic dear to us, which is the battery, so BESS.
Definitely. Yeah.
So what are you working on? So how do you explore, and what do you do with in terms of BESS at Circle K, since you're working on this yourself?
Yeah, so that's even putting more emphasis on the fact that we are trying to provide the power that we expect our customers will need when they come to our site, right? So we're actually taking increasingly often this significant investment that is battery energy storage systems, because it's no secret that that's a capital intensive investment, although it's been subject to a rapid decrease in prices over I would say the years after COVID. There was a bit of a supply chain crisis that drove the prices up a bit in 2022, but since then we've seen we've returned to the rapid decline that we saw before the pandemic, which is of course allowing me to think personally that this will increasingly be a useful and cost-effective tool to deploy fast in an ever more congested European power grid. And that's also our approach at the moment, that we see ever more that the grid operators cannot provide us with the power that we are applying for. And when I say cannot, that means either an answer of a very high connection cost or a very long time frame for getting the connection that we're asking for, because of course the grid operators are technically not allowed to say no when we come with a request, but a no comes in different shapes and forms when dealing with grid connections. And to sort of decouple from these constraints of the power grid, then batteries are really one of the only solutions, in addition to an improved dialogue with the grid operators. But even with this dialogue in place, I think battery is one of the few tools that can sort of help us work better together with the grid operators. And we have already deployed various forms of battery energy storage systems on our sites already since 2021. I think it was our first battery deployment. That was a bit before I started in Circle K, but so then we had this one in Kongsberg in Norway, which was really our first, I would call it dipping the toe in the water a bit with a battery as part of the EV installation. It was not a particularly big battery system. It was not a site that was sort of limited in any way in terms of power, but it was a good arena for us to do some testing of the battery system. The grid operator in that area had a research project ongoing, so Circle K became part of that and had the opportunity to explore a bit both the technicalities around implementing the battery energy storage with the chargers, but equally important sort of financial opportunities around the battery, because that was a project exploring the local energy flexibility markets. So typically the DSO markets that has been explored a bit. And I think Norway and Sweden is maybe two of the countries that are a bit ahead on that. Netherlands have also had some explorations around that, and not so much the TSO flexibility, which we see a bit more widespread across Europe, where you have the TSO paying for different types of balancing services from the flexible production and consumption in the power grid. But yes, and since then we have done a bit of exploration around the battery integrated chargers. So we had 2022, 2023, where we deployed a couple of handfuls of these kind of battery integrated chargers, which of course have some use cases where they're a good fit, but really for us as a CPO, we have seen from sort of the experience with those units that it's more beneficial to do battery deployments as a sort of
standalone satellite.
Yes, it's a standalone battery system that can assist all of the charge points on site, so that you have a better sharing between the chargers. And also an important part of that is to obtain consistency of customer experience regardless of a battery on the site or no battery on the site. So the 5 latest battery deployments that we've been doing has been with this centralized battery storage, where the customer experience, apart from sort of what I see from the back end, is identical to any other Circle K charger. The customer wouldn't be the wiser whether or not there's a battery or not, and that's a good thing, because we want them to sort of know what to expect when they come to us.
Yes.
The charging power is the same as other places. The charger is the same as other site, and we can then play with the battery as one big unit and really optimize the value of that, given that it is a fairly expensive piece of equipment.
For sure, yeah. But do you clearly see, is the business case then improving also over time as the price decreases, right? I guess it's more and more profitable.
Yeah. So there are, as I'm sure you in Flexecharge are aware, a lot of value streams connected to battery storage.
Yes.
And some of them are very consistent and quite predictable. So we do have the peak shaving. Once you have a hunch of what will be sort of the demand for charging in a site, you can do a decent prediction of what will be the benefit of peak shaving. And you have the optimization of the electricity cost, bringing some flexibility into an otherwise completely inflexible sort of power consumer, which is a fast charger. So that allows us to steer off the highest peaks of pricing. We have seen some odd cases the last year where we reached sort of 1 point something euro per kilowatt hour from the power grid. But just in a short time. So having the battery then on site, moving the consumption away from this hour is of huge benefit. So peak shaving and price optimization is fairly consistent value streams of the battery. But then you have also these flexibility services that has had a tendency to fluctuate a bit. We have seen Sweden having sort of a bubble situation where battery storage was an extremely good opportunity of investment. That's reduced a bit for those who invested in battery as sort of a purely battery energy storage and did the whole installations just to do flexibility services to the grid. They will sort of suffer a bit right now.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of potential for value in the batteries. I think remains to be seen exactly how much contribution we can expect from these sort of ancillary services, both locally and nationally in each of the markets. But as the battery prices drop, we can see a situation where the business case itself might lean on the peak shaving and the price optimization. And when we reach that point, I think we will see a fairly widespread rollout of batteries in relation to charging installations.
Yeah, for sure. I concur. And that puts us nicely over to the next topic to expand about, business case and profitability. So I guess BESS are part of it. For Circle K, so, it's not a secret that many CPOs struggle with profitability. So from your perspective, so with the focus on energy management, right? So how does Circle K show that its charging business is as financially sustainable as possible?
Yeah, I can't really speak for Circle K as a CPO on that, but for my domain, which then is energy management and then batteries especially, I think what's really my focus and my effort goes into stacking all of the potential savings and incomes that the battery system brings to site, and sort of being as good as that as possible is key. Mm-hmm. We have significant advantages compared to people owning sort of pure battery installations that we can also have significant value from the peak shaving or other behind the meter services. Mm-hmm. And then when it comes to that contribution to the overall picture, that can allow us to sort of reduce the cost of electricity a bit for us. So I think that's the best answer I can give you around the topic.
Yeah, good. But I think you answered. I was also wondering about the new revenue streams, but I think you mentioned them, right? So on the energy trading and the ancillary services.
I can be a bit more specific on that, because we have been working on that for a while. There's a lot of people that like to present the flexibility services as this sort of it's a fairly glossy thing in the energy market. People have had the tendency of making a lot of money on that if the timing is right. We've seen it in Sweden, we've seen it in the UK, we've also, I think, seen it for periods in Germany. So that, of course, it's interesting opportunities, but I think for us, we're now sort of exploring how to do that without interfering with the charging installation. So the primary use of our batteries is power assist to the chargers, but we don't have a peak power situation at our sites all of the time. So together with our EMS, we have deployed the sites with Sparkion so far. We have already been able to explore both the DSO and TSO services, and we have already sort of started bidding flexibility into the nodes marketplace, where we have made some revenue from the local grid operators, which I think is a very interesting use case, because then we're actually having this sort of feedback loop where we actually help ourselves in the long run, because that flexibility that they buy from us allow them to be more effective with the use of their own power grid. And the more effective they can be, the more grid we can get for future installations. So I think that's really a win-win.
I see, yeah.
And then also the TSO flexibility this FFR season will be the first one that we are actively participating and selling flexibility from the battery systems that we have deployed so far. So it will be a very interesting year for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll follow that closely. So looking ahead, what would you say, how does success in EV charging look like for Circle K in the next few years from your chair?
Yeah, so in Norway and Sweden, we have, based on customer service, seen that Circle K is ranked very high with the charging customers in both those markets. So we see that we have sort of established a position as the second most preferred, only beaten by Tesla, and we will see how that position of them remains. But I think a good answer to that question is that we hope to at least keep that position in those countries, maybe even improve on it and obtain the same position in the other European markets that we're present in.
Yeah.
So become the place where people really enjoy to go and charge their car.
Absolutely, yeah. Get some good outset for that. Any official ambitions in terms of market presence that you can share?
Not other than that we are really serious about e-mobility, and we want to become a key player and an important CPOs in all of our European markets where EV is maturing.
Makes sense. Absolutely. Great. So where can our listeners learn more about Circle K's EV charging offering and charging locations?
Well, it depends a bit where they're located. If they are located in Scandinavia or Estonia, I would actually recommend to check out our charging app, Circle K Charge. It's quite good. Where we have newly released a feature of one-tap charging. So check that out, and you can also see a bit more about our charging network. And if you want to read more about it, about Circle K, that's more generic. Google us, and you'll find the local homepage of Circle K to see more of our offerings in your region.
Sounds good. This is noted. Hallgeir, Thank you very much for taking the time to be on the ChargePoint podcast, and wishing you a great afternoon. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you.
And that wraps up episode 22, giving us a rare and in-depth look at how one of the world's largest fuel retailers is making the leap into EV charging, not just as a bolt-on, but as a core part of its future strategy. There were so many rich takeaways here, but a few stood out loud and clear. First, location still matters. Circle K's physical footprint, convenient roadside sites with built-in amenities, is a unique asset in a fast-charging market that increasingly values comfort, speed, and reliability. Second, load management isn't just a technical detail, it's a strategic enabler. Hallgeir made it clear that without smart power management, there is no way to scale charging infrastructure economically or sustainably. Circle K's use of dynamic load balancing and battery storage isn't just smart, it's essential to keeping up with EV adoption while staying ahead of grid constraints. Third, there's a growing gap between driver expectations and technical realities, especially when it comes to charging speed, and Circle K is one of the operators learning how to bridge that gap, not just by adding power, but by helping educate and design for better experiences. And finally, Hallgeir reminded us that transformation takes time, but those who started early and learned carefully are now positioned to scale with confidence. Circle K isn't throwing everything at the wall. They're building a network that can stand the test of both technical complexity and customer scrutiny. And this is just the start. Today's episode kicks off a new series of how traditional fuel retailers are adapting to electrification and redefining what it means to be a mobility provider. So if you're curious about how legacy players are evolving, what profitability really looks like for CPOs, and what the future of EV charging will demand, don't miss what's coming next. Follow the ChargePoint podcast, share this episode with your network, leave us a quick review and a bunch of stars. It really helps us grow. Until then, stay informed, stay curious, and stay charged.